You know, there is more technology coming out and growing and blowing everybody's minds in the world today than has ever been true before. And as a business person or a marketer, that might make you think, oh my God, I have to get involved. I have to take part in this thing. But the truth is that that's either impossible or at the very least completely unnecessary. So I think I'm going to make you feel a little bit better today. We're going to walk through kind of a two-step process to first determine whether it's even worth it for you to get involved in this new technology. And if you do decide, yeah, I think it's worth it for my business to get involved, what steps you should take to strategically and tactically think about attacking that new problem. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a marketing strategist. I'm so excited to be back for my first video in a very long time. So come along with me while we talk about how to market this emerging tech, and let's get started. Okay, so let's start by talking about whether this thing is even worth it, the first prong in our two-pronged approach here. So we've talked a lot about the hype cycle in videos like this one. I've mentioned it many, many times, but just quick summary, a hype cycle is a sharp incline in interest into some new technology and everybody starts using it and gets excited about it. And then suddenly a sharp decline in that interest where people stop using it. Let's look at NFTs from a few years ago. It went boom and bust very, very quickly. And then assuming that that technology survives, you're going to see a slow regrowth period over time to something that's more steady and sustainable. The internet is a great example of this. In the 2000s, of course, we had the huge boom, and then pets.com and other websites like that, huge bust. And then we've got that slow growth period that's led us to where we are right now. So what's important to understand is that all tech has to go through this. And it's really important for us to kind of look into the future and understand a little bit better, is this technology that I'm interested in investing my time and money in, is it actually gonna survive? Is it gonna grow? Is there something that's going to allow it to just go a little bit further than anything else in the past that we've seen that's died? So let's take, for example, AI. I mean, we might as well talk about it. Everyone else is, right? And we just can't seem to shut up about this thing. I mean, it's every other product on Product Hunt. It is all over the place, which means it's probably right about here on the hype cycle. Yeah, it could be due for a decline pretty soon. We'll have to see what happens. But if it does survive a decline, we have to ask ourselves, does it have that ability to survive going forward? And when you see something this hyped up, you start to notice a lot of other hard truths about it. I mean, most AI imagery is really not very good. Even today, you can just look at it and go, yes, that's an AI image. Most AI writing is like a college freshman level at best. And if you've used it for more than 5 minutes, you know that it is prone to mistakes. In short, AI is mostly called artificial intelligence as a marketing ploy. It's not really all that intelligent. It does not pass the Turing test, being the test that tricks a human into believing that this robot is actually a human, right? And for the most part, it's just a very sophisticated search and interpret system with kind of a natural language model attached to it. So it sounds real good, but it's just not at the level of actual artificial intelligence. So let's bring it back to first principles. What are the parameters for determining whether emerging tech is worth it or not in a case-by-case basis? These are a bit subjective, but it essentially comes down to a two-pronged test that you can use against your best judgment to kind of determine whether to get involved or not. The first prong of this test is, how are the creators of this technology marketing it? This is really important because it kind of gets to the use case that they see for the product or service. I'm not saying that the marketers working on this new technology are the geniuses and they should be listened to because they always know best, right? There are a lot of examples of products that were marketed one way to begin with and found an entirely different use case. Bubble wrap was wallpaper, frisbees were pie pans, etc. I mean, you've heard those examples before, I'm sure. If creators are marketing these things in a way that doesn't have a huge market fit, then it's not to say that it won't work, but there is a level of gamble there that you need to take into consideration. Going back to AI as our example here, AI is marketed the way that it's used. Now, I know that I just spent a lot of time kind of harping on AI and it's not artificial intelligence, blah, blah, blah. But really, at the end of the day, Sam Altman created ChatGPT, which is a product that is there to help us with our productivity without extra human intervention. It helps us to draft things. It helps us to look things up without having to go through a lot of that extra manual labor that was required in a blink of an eye before ChatGPT was brought to the world. It showed us these things and it opened our world. There's no question about that. Second prong of this first prong of our test here is there a long-term value? And no, I don't mean like, is it going to break after 3 uses, or can I use it to do my accounting? I mean, is there a long-term perceived value? So take Facebook, for instance. I mean, you might hate it now, that's fine, but is there a perceived value for Facebook? Absolutely, there has to be, right? It's a way for us to connect and talk to people in a way that had never been done via social media before. And it's not a Kardashian. It became famous for a reason, right? It's connecting people. So that is the perceived value. And when we look back at AI as kind of our continuing example, it does provide with a way to read and interpret things in a very natural way, right? If nothing else, if you don't believe anything else about artificial intelligence, it is still true that LLMs make it possible to understand natural language, interpret that natural language, and then feed back what you're actually looking for, instead of you having to go to Google, do a bunch of Boolean searches, refine your search, refine it again until you find what you're looking for. You're taking possibly hours out of the research and development of something. Now, while we're at it, what are some parameters that you should ignore? So the first one I want to talk about is public sentiment. So we have to remember that the hype cycle exists because we have a bunch of people that feed off of each other, and everybody gets crazy and everybody goes up and they get all interested and then they crash, and then that's people, right? That is the mob. And if there wasn't a hype cycle, if there wasn't a group of people, a public sentiment that all followed each other and fed off of each other, the markets would never crash. Blockchain would be a constant impermeable revolution in tech. Theranos would not be a scam, right? All of these things would be true because we could trust that the public was always right, which we can't. One of the things people on Wall Street are constantly pointing out is that the stock market is not a rational place. It is, in fact, completely irrational. You have certain people buying, and then that causes other people to buy, and then there's suddenly a run or a dip or whatever. And sometimes it can get very out of hand because people are acting irrationally, right? So even though it's very easy to get swept up in the mob mentality of things, you have to do your best to ignore that, to filter it out, and to focus on the facts here. Another big thing, and it's kind of related, is FOMO. So it is really, really important that you avoid this feeling of being afraid of missing out, right? You need to kind of be impermeable to that, because otherwise you're going to get swept up again in this kind of mob mentality, right? So let's look at kind of an example, an obvious example. If you've looked in the last year at what Apple's new products are, and they're brand new, biggest bomb maybe ever is the Apple Vision Pro, right? This was a highly marketed, very expensive product, and at the end of the day, nobody bought the thing, and it might be delayed forever. I mean, we'll see. Apple is usually not afraid to try things a few times before they fail completely. Now, if you look at companies like Disney that put a lot of money into Apple Vision Pro specific experiences, you could see that they might have wasted that money, because if the Apple Vision Pro isn't going to continue, then all of that millions of dollars that they put into development of something that is very specific for that product, I mean, the product's not going to be around anymore, right? So yes, Disney is losing money. They're losing a lot of money. You need to put yourselves in the shoes of somebody who is not Disney, right? You don't have the same level of expendability, right? You probably can't spend millions or maybe even thousands wasting your time and money on a specific new technology. So it is very important that you don't get swept up in that FOMO moment and you stay focused. Okay, so let's assume that you've analyzed and you've decided, yes, it is time to invest in this new platform, service, whatever. There are a few different elements to look at, which are, of course, broken down into their sub-elements. And the first one is, what type of platform? Now, you're going to hear me talk in this section about different services mostly, but this is pretty applicable to anything, products or services. And the first type here is consumption heavy or consumption first. So this is something like TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. This is stuff that is highly visible, but very expirable, right? So it doesn't last for very long and people move on very quickly. Second is engagement heavy platforms or engagement heavy stuff, right? So you're thinking of maybe Reddit or Discord here. These are services that revolve around much more involved conversation, much more in-depth community. You really want to use this if your strategy involves building a stronger, deeper, more connected community. And third are exclusive platforms. So these are things that you can only experience if you have something, like if you possess something. So examples might be like software for an Apple Vision Pro that's only on the Apple Vision Pro, NFT perks, the lounge at an airport for first-class customers, that sort of stuff. And understanding that kind of platform or that involvement level first is going to help you to better plan. So something like TikTok, I mean, just go make a TikTok, right? Like you might as well just start today, because you need to start getting in the process and you need to move fast to get in front of all of those people. But something that's more exclusive, you might need more elbow grease. It might require more work and more time before you are able to put yourself out there. Second, let's talk about adoption speed. So the adoption speed is kind of looking at how quickly the people, the masses, are getting involved on this thing. So if it's growing insanely fast, you probably need to get on more quickly. You don't have as much time to plan. You have to kind of plan, build the airplane while it's going off the cliff, right? So in that sort of a situation, you need to move fast. You don't want to hesitate too much, because you want to be in when that wave is really going up. It's like surfing. You just want to ride that wave as much as possible, right? Now, if it's something that is going slow, you have more time to kind of get involved. I mean, you must be thinking that it's a slow burn and it's something that has a lot of potential for the future. So when you're in there early, you can really get established. A good example of that one is Blue Sky, right? I mean, we had Blue Sky that maybe had 1 million subscribers for some period of time, and then it suddenly started rocketing about 6 months ago, as Twitter was losing a lot of its followers and a lot of its users at the same time. So in that sort of a situation, we see that Blue Sky was kind of a slow burn, and then it just went through the roof. And then finally, what is the level of complexity of getting involved? So something like Apple Vision Pro is going to be much more difficult to get involved in than something like Blue Sky, right? And so you need to kind of balance, what is it going to take to educate people about what I have to say? How do I go about doing that? What is the level of complexity that people need to have as an understanding before they can really take advantage of what I have to offer? All of these things have to go into how you are going to build that communications plan. Something that is more complex requires more education, and it requires more time, and it requires a little bit more variability with the way that you approach the education that you're providing, which shows people the advantage of your platform, your product, your service, whatever. These 3 elements together leave you with kind of a rubric, and I'm going to leave those elements down in the description for you to kind of take a look at. No emails or anything. I'm just giving it away. So just take it. It'll be on a Google spreadsheet or something. I haven't decided yet. But essentially, it's going to kind of walk you through, based on everything we just talked about, how foolhardy should I be? How thoughtful or careful should I be before I take action on something? So there you have it. I hope that helped you to kind of frame out how this works. This should really help you to kind of structure the approach and the right way to do things for your business, your product or service. Take a look at that rubric down in the description. I think that's really going to help you. In any case, I will catch you in the next one. Thanks.